it. Sorry.
Okay, awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's May 10th Finance and Appropriations Committee meeting. Today we have a fairly robust docket today, agenda. We'll start off, of course, with approval of the minutes, go into our monthly finance report, talk about the latchkey rate increase proposal. So that's the administration coming before us to offer that proposal. In addition, we'll do the treasurer's office space discussion, as well as the budget software, and then adjourn. So if we can we call order?
Board Member Adair, Board Member Brown, he's joining us by Zoom. Chair Cole.
Present.
Mr. Green.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Jordan said he would be here. We'll see, but he's absent now. And Mr. Miller.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you all again. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We can go ahead and, well, first and foremost, is there approval of the minutes? Does someone want to motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Ayes. Move forward. Monthly financial report, Mr. Treasurer.
You approve the agenda. You want to do the minutes next?
Okay, well, I guess we just approved the agenda.
Yeah.
Now we'll approve the
You
minutes.
sort of added an item on me there.
Forgive me.
Chair Cole. That's all right. That's fine. So let's do the minutes if you would, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, monthly financial report, Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you. As we bring this up on the screen and share it via Zoom, apologies for having to relocate. There were some other important matters being conducted in our normal meeting room. So the two of you here on this side will have to roll around and take a look at the screen. But this is the monthly financial report for April, and Deputy Treasurer Vanover will walk us through that report.
Thank you. The April report is fairly uneventful. Year to date, revenues are above plan by about 17.4 million. Expenditures below plan around 30.9 million. For the month, revenues were about 15 million under plan, and expenditures were around 2.8 million over plan. Altogether, this puts the cash balance at the end of April at around 415.6 million, which is 48.3 million above plan. We're looking at the revenues. There was no property tax activity for the month. State aid continues to be above plan, primarily due to the increase in the phase-in for the DPIA that was received and began back in January. In addition, we still have budgeted. I feel like I can change the mics here. The penalty for the transportation, or the amount in there for the transportation penalty, is still factored in. So that also attributes to the fact that we're over plan, because we do have that in the budget, but it has not been assessed at this point. In addition, on the other revenues, we have property tax allocation. We had originally in the plan estimated that that would come in April. It did not. It actually hit the bank today. So that's just a timing issue. The pilots and Medicaid reimbursement, investment income, all attributes to the other revenue sources being above plan. So this is the detailed breakdown of those various categories that contribute to the other level. Again, not much going on in the month of April. So on expenses, again, it's really kind of hard to read those numbers.
That's because it's a PowerPoint rather than
That's the
PDF.
Anyway, the personnel continues to run about 27.1 million below plan. Non-personnel is around 3.8 million below plan. Personnel this month came in about, almost exactly on plan. We were at 0.01 or 0.121% from the plan for the month in personnel. Again, keeping in mind that we also had the wellness week adjustment that was made back in January. So This is just a graphical representation. The little blip you see in January is when that wellness week adjustment was made. Otherwise, you can see pretty clearly that the plan and the actual are running pretty steady. Same thing with benefits, same phenomenon in January with wellness week. On the expenditure side of things, on the non-personnel items, purchase services and supplies and materials are all, and transfers in and out are all above plan for the month, as well as fiscal year to date. Again, a lot of the timing of this is just for the month we're up in purchase services, supplies and materials. Again, nominally, as you can tell for the year, we're still well below what was planned. So the increases this month is just timing of bills being paid, comparison to the plan and applying very, specific, just evenly distributing it through the year. So, and again, we're still way under plan year to date. So then we have the comparisons of both the variance between fiscal year end or the revenue and expenditures for the two fiscal years, FY23 versus last year, 22. And then again, similarly, but a comparison of just more the revenues against for each year, as well as the expenditures for each year. And keeping in mind that 23's revenue is still a little distorted because of the fact that we've received the return of the advance for the ESSER monies last year, but we have yet to advance out for the coming year. So, and that will all work itself out in FY24. That's it.
We still anticipate at the end of the year, if you remember when we did the forecast, the biggest contributor to the difference between November and May, these results, I forget, 27 million, 22, 27, somewhere in the mid 20 millions. And we're still on target to do that for the year. And that's been factored into May. So the future planning, how we expect to finish the year, it sounds like we'll be there. We're just moving on to the next month. So we've got that covered. It's in the next forecast. I think we're good to go.
Are there any questions for the financial report? All right, onward and upward. So we'll move to the latchkey increase proposal, Mr. Treasurer.
The latchkey proposal will be introduced by Executive Director Addison from the Budget Department.
Testing 1, 2. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Chair Cole, committee members, colleagues and friends. It's an honor and a privilege to introduce Dr. Baker in this presentation here for the request to increase our latchkey fees. As you know, this is a self-sustaining fund, meaning all the revenue generated is needed to cover the expenses. So in our monitoring of this fund, we noticed that, hey, we're running out of money quickly, and by the school year 25, we will be actually in a deficit. So that's the urgency and the need behind this request. And through this presentation, hopefully I'm not stealing too much of your thunder here, Dr. Baker. You can see with this proposal, this will sustain this fund well beyond fiscal year 28. So today Dr. Baker is presenting this, and then this will be actually shared with the full board at next week's Tuesday's meeting as a consent agenda item. So with that, Dr. Baker, it looks like you're ready. Feel free to take it away.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman Cole, committee. I just want to start by talking a little bit about our latchkey program. So as you already know, all of our sites are 4- and 5-star rated sites with the Ohio Department of Education. We have approximately 700 students who attend consistently, and so one of the things that I really want to highlight about Latchkey also is that all of our students in Latchkey have better attendance and fewer suspensions to their counterparts who don't participate in Latchkey. And I could attribute that to the focus of the whole child that our Latchkey program really utilizes. All of our staff are certified, both teachers and instructional assistants. They have to develop lesson plans, and they address everything from the arts to SEL. Our request for next school year is a $10 increase. We're asking for a flat $10 increase for both AM, PM, and then for both AM, PM services. Our rationale. So we haven't had an increase in the latchkey fees in 5 years. And prior to that, we hadn't had an increase since 2006. As a result of increase in salary and benefits that we anticipate for fiscal year 24, as Terry talked about, then if we look at that, we will be in a deficit come fiscal year 25. One of the things that I want to highlight in the next slide is our alignment to the other Ohio Urban 8 districts. If you see our current fees, and even with the $10 increase, we're well within the range of other districts, and in fact, lower than some. So when we look at the impact of this request, I want to bring to your attention, first of all, to your far left column, the years. If you see in our pre-COVID years, our expenses versus our revenue, we were doing well with being self-sustaining. Then COVID hit. If you jump down, you see the dip. COVID hit, impacted our cash. And so when we look,
There you go.
okay.
Minor disruption.
No problem, thank you. So if you look to the right, we see there during COVID, our revenue declined, but we were able to use ESSER funds last year, and those ESSER funds kept us in the green. Then we look at what we're doing currently, and we still have a surplus of funds, but if we look down further to fiscal year 25, we see that we would be in the negative. If you look at the smaller chart to the right, it is showing where we would be if we did do the increase, and you can see we would be in the green all the way down, and we would not start moving, depleting our cash flow until like fiscal year 28. This is just a visual representation of the revenue and expenses. There is actually a light blue line that you guys cannot see. The light blue line is the revenue, and then the darker blue line is the expense, and the revenue is declining during the COVID years, and then it came up a little after COVID, but it is still not meeting the expenses. With the revenue increase that we are requesting, then again, it's just a visual representation to show that it would support us through fiscal year 20. So our plans to communicate, we would of course communicate with all parents. We have a handbook. We would have that information in our handbook. Teachers would hand out the flyers. The fees would be posted at all locations, including on our website. And since we have already begun sending our registration for this year, we have already alerted families of the possibility of an increase. That is all that I have, unless you have questions.
Committee, are there any questions at this point?
The revenue, how is that? 700 students, start $85?
If they are attending both AM and PM. So they have, families have the option of doing just AM, just PM, or both.
So that a weekly fee, a monthly fee?
It's a weekly fee.
Okay, that kind of doing some rough calculations, it's like coming up.
And then the decline is just that we just haven't recovered to the same numbers.
Exactly. Pre-COVID, we had about 900 students that were consistently in the program, and now we're down to 7. But it is it's increased each year since we've returned from the pandemic.
But you're not projecting any increase in staff, you're just increasing their salaries, staff salaries.
Correct, based on the
And is this a proactive measure? Because we are looking at that fall of money in 2024. We're looking at losing those ESSA dollars. And this is a proactive move so that we can actually maintain the self-sustainability of the program.
Absolutely. And we were looking at it would carry us, if we continue for 5 years, if our enrollment maintained its current rate.
Okay. Are we looking at attracting more students to this program?
So always, we always publicize it. It's on our website. A lot of our families utilize it. Some of the decline, I think, was transportation and elimination of the Form 1.
Okay. Are there any additions? Yes.
They have snacks.
So there are snacks provided, and talk a little bit more, Dr. Baker. There are snacks provided. There is after-school assistance available. There are activities available.
Absolutely. So yes, the teachers have to do a whole lesson plan. They incorporate the arts, they incorporate literacy, math, there's homework help, and then there's physical activity, there are social emotional learning activities.
If there are no questions, okay, we can move forward to the Treasurer's Office space report. Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Thank you.
Always good to see you.
Okay, this is mine.
Were there any questions? Just a quick thing, Mr. Treasurer. Were there any questions from Mr. Brown at all? Reach out with query. I just wanted to be sure.
As I say, he's on screen.
You're muted.
Thought I unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I had unmuted, but no questions for me.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure you can recall, 2 years ago, we started a reorganization and restructuring of my office that involved, the traditional org chart realignment of tasks and duties, some positions being created, folks moved around, general realignment, things like that. And we started putting that into effect in the May-June timeframe of 2021. And since then, we've just continued to various in the sort of phase. Part of our reorganization was to contemplate and hopefully bring together all of our staff, all the treasurer's office staff. We've got some folks out in satellite locations, and we're thinking that there are some of those that we might be better served to have them with us. Unfortunately, on the third floor, if you've ever been up there, we're out of space. And so we began looking for alternate locations internally, externally, and what can we do to effectuate this one of the last phases in this reorganization. So that brought us to this presentation. Wanted to bring to you a proposal and discussion of an option that we believe is viable. And I'll just walk through some of the points as we see it, why this makes sense. As I mentioned, we're here currently on the third floor of the Columbus Education Center at 270 State Street. From what I've been told, up on the third floor, we have the highest density of people per square foot in the district. So it's cozy. We have nice cubicles, but it's still a pretty high density area for folks. I don't know that one would design space if you were building a new building. I doubt you would design it with that kind of density. Clearly, you can walk around this building if you like. This is an aging facility. 1960 is what the plate outside the front door said. The superintendent of the time is the superintendent when I was here. So I can tell you that was a long time. When I graduated, he delivered his last commencement speech to me. So he is old. I don't think he's with us anymore. I'm old. The building is old. So there are some issues with getting old. And again, as I mentioned, insufficient space. Our proposal is to look at space and move over to the building at the northwest corner of Grant and Broad. It's the SERS building, the School Employees Retirement System building. And with us this evening that will speak to some of this, Mike McManaway. Did I say your last name right, Mike? Oh, there you are, Mike McManaway, with SERS, and then John Hall with CB Richard Ellis, the agent representing them. So some of the highlights of what this option brings to us. We would be still in downtown Columbus. I know when we've talked about administrative location, there's been some desire to have a downtown presence. So that would maintain our downtown presence. Clearly, this building is a lot more modern than ours. I think it's 20 years old, roughly, 20, something like that, versus our 60-some-year-old building. And it also provides us some opportunities for expansion. Why are we doing this? I think there are three pretty key points: modernization of our facilities, a partnership with SERS, and there are some cost benefits to doing this. When we look at modernization, let's just say it's Class A office space, and this building is not. We looked at 4 or 5 other locations in the Class B and Class C areas. There's, those of you who understand office space, there is clearly a difference. A lot of those options did not provide all of the facilities that we needed. Some didn't have parking. Some had parking, but it was paid. It just didn't work out right. Most of them didn't allow for expansion opportunities. So when we got to the SERS building, there were lots of aspects of that they just checked all the boxes for us. We do a fair amount of professional development, and with trying to bring 60 people together, trying to find that kind of a space within the district is somewhat difficult to do, but they've got some shared conference space available over there. So a lot of additional functionality that we would have but in this space. And anything I missed that you two want to add? Not you two at the end, you two on my staff. Am I missing any key points? Okay, let's go on to the partnership part. Let's make this perfectly clear. About 40% of our staff participate in SERS. SERS is the classified side of things. These are the what we call non-teaching personnel. The teachers are obviously over in STRS, State Teachers Retirement System. Coincidentally, that building is right behind us here to our north. But this is a partnership with them. And I thought perhaps maybe in this particular case, I'd ask John or Mike to chime in and talk about what that partnership means to them and to us, why that is important and beneficial. Other than gaining a tenant, there are reasons why they would be excited to have us as a tenant, I believe.
And this is, first of all, John Hall, CBRE. I'm the leasing agent for the building and have been for some time. We are really excited about this potential tenancy in our building. This is the first time we've been able to accommodate your immediate and long-term growth. Prior to COVID and for the last 20 years, we've maintained an occupancy level about 95% plus. So you're in a unique situation now where we can accommodate the short-term needs and show a really clear pathway to accomplishing having everyone move over in stages or however you'd want to do that. So that's neat. I also think that you guys service the same clientele, if you will. And I think that there's been a lot of excitement on both sides about the synergies that can be created and the customer experience or the quality of the experience of servicing your joint clientele. Anytime you're under one roof together, it just makes communication and service that much better. You do check all the boxes as we understand that you need, from a parking to common areas, public areas, and we're just really excited that the timing seems to be perfect.
He mentioned, kind of a client service aspect of it. This is a huge payroll operation, and quite often, we have staff that come in and they'll have payroll questions that tie to their retirement questions. And while they are only, I don't know, I haven't measured it, I haven't stepped it off, but while the building's only a couple of 100 yards away, we'd be in the same spot, and it just increases the ability to kind of be a one-stop shop, at least for that portion of our staff that relate with that retirement system. So I think that's pretty beneficial for us. On the cost side of things, short term, we're going to incur a lease cost of some sort. So in that lease cost, obviously, we're going to embed utility costs, the cost of parking. There'll be a tenant build-out allowance to make the space our own and meet our needs. On the flip side, long-term, question is, what do we do with this building? Long-term, we've got some pretty high maintenance costs. We've got roof issues, we've got HVAC issues, and we've got those are multi-million-dollar kinds of issues to address. We've got ongoing utility costs that are here that are fairly high. Long-term, if we can vacate this building at some point, and whether it's there to other spaces in the district, I think there will be a pretty good cost benefit. We acquired 3,700 with the idea of consolidation and closing buildings from an administrative standpoint. So this is at least, if not a short-term, certainly perhaps a long-term option for being able to accomplish that. So we're really excited about it. We've been looking probably for 10 months and making, trying to consider what our options are. And as John said, it's exciting that it's available, and it checks so many boxes for us in the facilities and what they offer. I will say that this is a very personal aspect of this, not necessarily personal for me. The restroom facilities here are less than that. And so when we took our female staff over, they were very excited. Our facilities upstairs, they're just tough. You can't rehab that. You're at a point where you just can't do that. We wouldn't rehab this building in those kinds of aspects. I keep all the records, many of the records here. We have some fire suppression issues, like none here. They have power backup. So when we're running payroll and downtown power goes out, as it does several times a year, that can cause us some computational issues. So all in all, modernization, better service, client service, location, all of those things. It just seems to make a great, hey Jeff, it seems to make a great fit for us. So we're open to questions. Mike or John will answer questions as well. We've got some other numbers if you want to hear them in particular, but we're excited about it. We think this makes a lot of sense. So, Chair Cole, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Are there any questions at this point in time? Yes, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree fully with the analysis of why not to stay in your current location. That makes all the sense in the world. Two questions. First is, what, if anything, would be left in 370? And that begs the question of, well, if there's not much or nothing left, what are we going to do with the property? And I have no doubt that it has good commercial value. Secondly, and more significantly, is why not 3700 South High?
Let me see if I get your questions in order. So remind me. First of all, when we move out, what's left? Currently, we occupy all of the third floor. On the second floor is the superintendent's office, chief of staff, some other central Department of Equities on second. So there are some academic, administrative, high-level offices there. On the first floor, it's entirely occupied with the communications team. And could they move? I think the answer to that is yes. The question is where, and, you know, it's easier for me. I have fewer departments and fewer people to try and bring together in the same spot. So there's always that question of if the superintendent's here and the leadership team somewhere else, how does that work out? But there's room to expand over at SERS. What was your other, oh, why not 3,700? You know, 3,700 has been utilized. It's pretty full at this point. I think what it would require down at 3,700 would be a review of that facility for the efficiency of the utilization, just to see if something else could be done with the facility. I don't believe that there has been much more than maybe cosmetic kinds of changes down there to house the folks that it's housing, as opposed to a more extreme gut the place and redesign the interior. That redesign was not effectuated at all. But to get into 37, there is no space down there right now that we could, you know, we need about 10,000 to 12,000 square feet for my office. You're not going to find that right now at 3,700 without some pretty significant redesign issues to move people around. Longer term, sure, maybe. You know, we've also got a space down there, the old Gold Circle store. There's a concrete platform down there. We've got room to build and expand, but that's a long-term issue as opposed to a short-term issue that I'm facing right now. So that's my answer about 3,700.
Okay, and that's helpful. And I certainly understand it in the short run. We may at some point in the near future want to take a look at evaluating 3,700 for efficiency and for, you know, what we can really do there since we now own that facility.
Sure. Did we get a number for this building? A guesstimate?
Last time we had a full estimate done was 2018. At that point, about 4.7 million. I think you had it over 5 million, about 5.5, I think.
4.5 to 5.5 based upon recent comps, and that would probably be scraping the building and making it a multifamily site.
And as you know, selling one of the buildings that's owned by a public entity, there are rules and regulations around that, but just to get an idea of where we are on that and the ability to, when you vacate, you know, liquidate a piece of property and those dollars become available for other capital improvements. So next steps on this, I know we stopped the slide, but oops, oh, I just shut my computer down. That's great. Hit the wrong button and now it's shutting down on me. I think I can, there we go. What we would like to do, SERS has provided us a letter of intent. And that's all it is that, yeah, we want to think about this more. We'll want to go to the next steps in planning, get the next clearances that we need and whatnot. But it's kind of a good faith. Yes, we're interested. And yes, they're interested. There's some details about the proposal and lease costs and things like that in there. So we would like to sign that. I can sign that letter. There's no obligation. It's just a good faith indication that we're going to pursue this. Since we got to go and finalize our space needs and the terms. And then ultimately, you know, you get into signing a lease. That lease would come before the Board of Education at some point in time. And then we're off to, you know, phasing in. How do you move and what's it mean longer term? You know, this now can be factored into our plans for other types of reorganization and consolidation. It opens the door for that. So there you have it.
Are there any additional questions? Yes.
You have 10,000 square feet here.
I don't think we're at the 10,000. I think we're more around 8,500. Yes.
Yeah, we have a floor right now that can accommodate about a half a floor. Each floor plates about 20,000 square feet. So in round numbers, you would take half a floor today, and we would show you a clear path how to take on a floor. We've got lease expirations expiring, say next year, March of next year.
we will give you options or show you a clear path how to expand into your total 30,000 square feet. It can be done immediately, or it can be done probably over phases, over time. Makes sense.
Cause I would imagine if this space is not good enough for you, it's probably not good enough. They're gonna. In a sense to get to the whole building, put it on the market. New apartments.
That's a great idea, Jordan. I think we should run that up the flagpole. And I think once you see that facility, it's attractive. I mean, when you think about bringing in staff and you know, high quality, high caliber staff and retaining staff, it comes to a point in time where facilities matter. I mean, we all like to have a nice place to work. I've been in a variety. I started in a converted bus garage, and I had spent some time over here at the historic Bricker Building. And I can tell you that the Bricker Building is much nicer, and you feel better about your work and your time that you spend there at the Bricker Building than I did in a converted bus garage. So, yeah, I think when people see it, they'll want to move. But in addition to that, it needs to make sense from a functional relationship standpoint to get the right people in the district together in the appropriate facility. So.
There's additional space that's also made available for other aspects and use. So the whole downstairs is made available with different rooms. Can you talk about those associated opportunities for tenants? Bigger. In addition to that, so you see how you enter 270 East State with an open parking lot, you know, amidst anything neighborhood based going on here. But at that building, particularly at SCRS, the parking is enclosed, it's protected. There's 24/7 security, yes. And we have the benefit of a stellar group of safety and security personnel here in Columbus City Schools that could also work alongside you all. But the fact that your building is enclosed and protected, I think offers that additional benefit. I want to add one more thing. There's a capital improvement cost to this building, right? There would be a significant investment here that would be needed. What is that number?
Yeah, but same estimates from 2018, it was $6.7 million.
So nearly just short of $7 million that's needed for capital improvements on this building alone to make, I would imagine that would include HVAC, other rough mechanicals in the building. Again, a plumbing system or a bathroom system that we really can't expand or improve. Yes.
Yep, and we've been fighting roofs. I don't know how long, but all 9 years that we've been here. We're on the third floor, so we're close. It's just an issue. I mean, it comes through the tiles, and you can go around and see. the wet spots and potential damage. And I'm, been worried 9 years about records that we keep. So anyway, I think it's high time that we get to that modernization.
So I did, and, tied to your question, that's why I was kind of smiling. I did ask the treasurer and the superintendent to give this space another tour and an opportunity to really think through the potential of this space in a way that can be well leveraged in the short run, at least well leveraged in the short run. In the long run, when we're thinking about just the capital improvements alone that need to be made to this building, you already see a demonstrated savings. So you heard them talk about square footage at half or just slightly above half the cost of what's competitively offered here in the downtown arena. We're looking at savings in that space, and then overall, in comparison to what it would take for capital improvements in this building, you take 7 million over 10 years. What would be the square footage per year costs for us, even if it were just your space? But if we were to double that, what would that cost kind of estimate out be?
10-year lease for just our 10,000 square feet is around
Okay,
so
in 10 years' time.
over a 10-year span.
Mhm. So we double that, that's 4 million. And that's still nearly 3 million short of what it would take for capital improvement on this asset.
And it's
So-
still-
It's still this year.
Absolutely. Does that cost include just the sale of this building or our building behind us or the one, I want to say, east of us?
It included, as I said, the comp we got from capital improvements included Fifth Street.
Go ahead, John.
The numbers that we provided the other day was just for this specific parcel.
Right.
And we assumed that it would be redeveloped to apartments, and that's how we took the anticipated density. And that's how we came up with. the
So
price.
it's 4.5 to 5.5 for just this parcel, not including Fifth.
Does not include Fifth and Sixth.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
That will
So-
be even more.
So for clarification, we
can
do
update that
own
for you, but-
pretty much the block here. And there's an opportunity to sell those parcels as well. But what I look forward to getting more information on, particularly from the other side of our administration, is an idea of what the legalities are with selling this asset here, what that actually entails, and, where we have room for play or not, what kind of timing we have for that as well. It's a longer discussion, but I'm certainly going to encourage and have encouraged our administration and certainly my colleagues, the opportunity to take a look at this building, the SERS, take seriously the partnership. I think it presents itself very well. You guys have partnered with us on professional development as well as of recent. So there's been a lot of work collaboratively done and continues to be done, planned to be done. This is a win-win as I see it, at minimum for the short run. So thank you, guys. Are there any additional questions? If there aren't, we can move right on to our budget software
Cool,
presentation.
thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Appreciate your time.
We'll talk to John and Mike some more here in the near future. Like tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a discussion of some budget software we are purchasing. It's called AlloView. I've got some representatives here from AlloView to give you an overview of what this software is all about. We have, since I got here, or the first year I got here, the budget director at that time had revamped how we do budgets here in the district. He changed that methodology. Within a couple of years, we moved a lot of the transactional aspect of budget preparation from spreadsheets into our ERP system, Munis. And that got better, but it still wasn't at the level that we really wanted to be at in terms of budget preparation, resource allocation, budget management, and understanding kind of expense analysis. We certainly were able to do things at my office level, but we didn't have a very good capability to do it cascaded down through the organization to departments and buildings in terms of helping them become better budget managers. I have never been a fan of working outside the ERP. Because it's a cost that we have. We need an ERP for transactional activity. But to the extent that we can accomplish other things within the ERP features, I was a big believer that we stay with that product. Interfacing technological systems seems to be better if you stay inside that system. So I've been a big advocate of that over time. And rarely have I can't think of a time that I've looked outside of the ERP system. So I'm left with, if the ERP system doesn't do it, I'm left with manipulating spreadsheets myself or someone on my staff. And it works well. We do the 5-year forecast through a spreadsheet. And you met Jordan Hayes, our come out of my guru on that. So that works well for this. But when it gets down to doing this kind of budget software, budget management for non-financial managers, it has to look different and feel different. So this software, we looked at several packages. This software rose to the top of the heap, if you will, for a variety of reasons. In part, it works with Munis. We have one district, Indianapolis, that has Munis software, and they're using AlloView, so we know they'll talk. That's my layman's terms. Cleveland and Cincinnati also, they have different ERP systems, but they also use AlloView separately for their budget management. Over at Indianapolis too, the interesting thing is that they also work with ERS, which is the group that we're working with, on equity issues in terms of distribution and allocation of our resources, both human resources as well as financial resources. So in that work, we'll ultimately, the outcome of that will be a model for resource allocation. Then we need a mechanism to effectuate that model. And we believe that AlloView will serve that purpose too. So initially, we intend to use it right now strictly for the financial budgets, help prepare them, help our budget managers see their budgets in a different way. Dashboarding, if you will, makes it a little bit more user-friendly than what our ERP system provides. And then ultimately, we can grow into using it for personnel allocations, the equity model. And so we want to be prepared for when the other side of the house reaches all those decisions, that we're ready and equipped with the infrastructure to meet those needs and support that activity as well. So Eric, do you want to introduce the team from AlloView, and then we'll let them, if I haven't stolen your entire thunder, to the extent that I know your software better than you do, which is highly unlikely, but if you'd introduce the team and we'll let them do their presentation.
Thank you very much. Should I use it? No. We have with us today, we have Emily Martin from AlloView. We also have Tyler, and Tyler Hall. Thank you for being able to read that. I've talked with Emily many times, so I've got her. I know her name and have her number down, almost committed to memory. But we've been working with them very closely. They're with AlloView, and Emily, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you for the presentation.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for the introduction, for the opportunity to meet with the committee today. Would it be possible for me to get permissions to share my screen? Trying to share. Looks like the host has disabled that. Oh, excellent. Here we go. Thank you. Wonderful. So I'm planning to just give a brief overview of the work that we do. As Stan and Eric mentioned, we've really enjoyed getting to know the finance team at Columbus City Schools and see a lot of alignment between our mission and really the goals that are important to the finance team and what we've learned over the last several months. So as you see here, our mission is to empower education leaders with solutions to equitably and effectively administer resources. I'm excited to show you how we do that through our software solution today. So to double down on what Stan has kind of already laid out, this slide really is just meant to summarize some of the goals that your finance team has shared with us. And we were able to kind of bucket those goals into 3 different categories to help Columbus City, build budgets to best support your student needs. So the first component is just an overall streamlining of the budgeting process, Today, we know, as Stan mentioned, most of that process happens in Munis and Excel. And we know that Excel is very manual and error prone. And furthermore, as Stan mentioned, ERP systems, whether it's Munis or another, they just in general are not built for folks outside the finance office. So all that makes it really difficult to promote collaboration. And our solution not only helps to ensure accuracy and maximize efficiency, but also really helps enable the district to provide that context and clarity around your financial data for those who might not be as familiar with finances. And so that everyone who has a hand in the process can better tell the story behind your decisions. So to piggyback on this, in order for the district to work efficiently and for dollars to best support students, we need to promote collaboration between departments and ensure that financial data is accessible to all stakeholders. So more often than not, the site level leaders that are closest to your students have a really hard time digesting financial data. We've heard things like, I have to read my Munis printout with a ruler to be able to kind of track what these Excel type, downloads look like, or we've heard of principals tracking every single expense manually in Excel spreadsheet, trying to do their best to stay on budget, but certainly we would expect them to have higher priority initiatives that are more related to serving their students. So what our platform does is really helps to break down that language barrier for, again, those who have a hand in the budgeting process, but don't necessarily have all the financial expertise that Stan and Eric and the rest of the finance team have. And we also know that excuse me, monitoring and tracking spending is a really crucial component to creating a financially healthy district. We want to promote, not a set it and forget it budgeting cycle, right? During budget season, everyone has their heads down, working, diligently on the plan. And once that plan is presented and final, sometimes it's not as top of mind for folks. So really what we'd like to be able to provide to you all is an ongoing view into all accounts and transactions for your budget holders or budget owners, that scope to their permissions, right? So ensuring that those folks are really only zeroing in on the dollars that are relevant to them and their site or program. Excuse me. So we'll be able to show that to you today. Apologies, I had to go on mute to cough. So this sounds great, but how do we get there? So what we've done is laid out a phased multi-year plan to help Columbus City address these challenges with the LFU platform in a sustainable and effective way. So we're going to be solving for these challenges through our platform, which today is made up of 3 core modules that are specifically designed to support each step in the K-12 budgeting and financial management cycle. We were built by a former classroom teacher who really experienced these inequities firsthand in the classroom, ultimately left her role to reimagine, what could be possible. And today the platform consists of allocate, budget, and manage. Because we have limited time today, we're really going to be focusing on the tools that are going to be implemented in year 1, which are going to be the budget and manage components. So budget's going to be used by the finance team to collaboratively build the budgets, the district's budget in a controlled environment and align your spending plan to your goals. I'm so sorry for the coughing. I think it's just one more. Tyler and I both have little ones under 2 years, and we're just taking turns being sick this time of year. So Stan and Eric have heard it over and over the last few months, but I apologize. So back to the plan. So let's dig into the budget component here. So budget, this is a screenshot from that module, is going to allow Stan and the finance team to collaboratively plan the district's budget in this user-friendly environment. This is going to be outside of Excel. All your different users can be in the platform at the exact same time. So you're not worried about, different versions flying around and having to bring those all back together and then get it into a format that's going to be readable to Munis. Everything's going to be planned directly in our streamlined environment here. Everything in this module is searchable in plain language. So that means your budget builders don't have to know the district's account structure and have those codes memorized, which I'm sure Stan and Eric and the rest of the team do. And as I previously mentioned, this is where your planned expenses can be tied directly to your district-wide initiatives. So those things can come directly out of your strategic plan and increasing that alignment between your budget and strategic goals is really just a couple of clicks. Tyler, anything to add here?
No, and I'm happy to jump in if you need to take a coughing break here at any point, Emily.
Thank you. Any questions so far?
Coughing break.
You guys, it's been rough. I apologize.
No worries.
All right, I'll continue on here, but please feel free to jump in at any point with questions. So as I mentioned, kind of that second component is going to be the ongoing management. So Manage provides budget owners with a very easy view into their spending. So we have this simple dashboard view, which you can see here in the screenshot, that is going to empower everyone from finance to grants to perhaps principals and eventually site level budget stakeholders to easily monitor the things that are important to them. So this is even down to the transaction level, which is really cool. And this helps to, again, ensure that budgeting is not perceived as set it and forget it. Folks can log in each and every day to get an up-to-date view on where their buckets of funds stand, how much they've spent, what's been encumbered, what's been remaining, or what is remaining rather. And since we were built specifically for K-12, again, the entire platform is designed specifically for district use. And in addition to our CEO being a former classroom teacher, we have many folks on our staff, especially within our support and engineering team, who come from K-12 budgeting offices. So we have the former budget director of Atlanta Public Schools on staff. Tyler, formerly in another life, worked with the Syracuse School District in their finance office. So in addition to having this K-12 lens essentially on top of your ERP, you're also going to have all of you as a thought partner to really help you drive product adoption with these new components, and also help to evolve these processes in a more modern way. So with that, I just wanted to open things up to questions. At the end of the day, I know we have a short amount of time here, but I'm happy to field any questions that may arise. We're really looking forward to partnering.
Yeah, and I'd say, I see this, there's a lot going on here. I don't want to get into all the technical connections that we've got going on there, but in this day and age, again, the old guy, I view this as kind of on a personal level, how we here we go. You guys are in banking. How we transitioned in banking. I mean, we never had online access when I started with a checking account. When I got it, it was a piece of paper and I had to manually reconcile and track things down. And then gosh, we advanced to some point where I might be able to download transactions and look at them. And now it's a race to who's got the best app and who's got the best website interface. So that person who doesn't really understand banking, who doesn't understand financial, can see their information and have a better understanding of where they are financially. That's why this, I think, is important for us, because the vast majority of folks here that work for the district that are really responsible for budgets aren't trained budget managers, and that's okay. We just have to respond to that. We have to provide them with the tools and the resources to help them better understand that. We have a budget team that is assigned to groups of departments and buildings, and they work hand in hand with them. But this will be a tool where they'll be able to help explain, use that to help explain and to teach what's going on in your budget and how to better manage it. So this is just a really cool interface that I think will help us in the long run. And again, we've not gotten into the allocate portion. That will be very, very important as we get down the road in terms of equitable allocation of resources. Carrie, did you have anything you wanted to add since you're the budget guy?
No, I think everyone hit on the key points here. I would just like to shine the light on, this is for our end users, and I think that's what Stan was saying here. This will help our principals, our teachers in the classroom. We spend an enormous amount of time, my staff, going over, and I like the way Emily said, with a ruler, literally a ruler on a piece of paper with 10,000 numbers on it. And this platform simplifies that so much. So this will be a great tool that help not only my team, but more importantly, the teachers and principals on the front line as Stan says, to better understand their financial data. I'd just like to add that key piece.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
How did you get to this process? How did they get to this process?
I get inundated daily about folks that want to provide a service to us. And you know, because we were working on improving our budgeting process, the ones that caught my eye were those that said, hey, we've got a great application that can help you in budgeting. So we reached out to several and met with them. And quite frankly, part of the attractiveness here is this is a government contract. That's the right terminology. So the pricing and the bidding process is easily met because they're already on this government contract. So that was part of it. But more importantly, we were able to go see it in action. So that's what route we went. So that wasn't a formal, process per se. It was, I made an initial contact, thought it sounded good, and then began slowly to engage other folks on my team with it. And then as we got to it, I think we left a lot of it in Terry's hands, and he came back and he said, I've looked at it, I really like how AlloView works. Let's dig deeper into that. That's when we did site visits.
I just have a question, and again, I wanted to clarify it too at the table publicly, so that when we transition this to board discussion, it's already been brought out. So in adopting this software, is there any disruption that AlloView, when we're transferring information from one system to another, EMIS, for example, is there any disruption that otherwise compromises our information or slows a process down, anything to that effect?
And while AlloView's on the call, my answer to that is there better not be.
Absolutely not. So because
See?
we're not replacing your ERP system, the budget module will essentially serve as almost like a budget sandbox. It's going to exist outside of your ERP, and then we'll be able to help you once the budget is finalized in that module, export it into the GL language that's required by Munis, and then you manually import it into Munis. And that is an intentional manual process to make sure that folks have finally, blessed the budget and it's actually ready to go. The manage module is a read-only connection. And that means that we're not going to be syncing anything to Munis. We're just going to be reading data from it and then putting it into that user-friendly view. And ahead of even, entering into contract negotiations, we did bring our two data teams together to do that due diligence to make sure that we have what we need for successful integration. And so we don't anticipate any hiccups there.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. I don't know why I have EMIS in my mind all the time. That's okay. Keep making that same mistake. Wrong guy, Munis. But I just wanted to make sure, thank you for that clarification. I think that's really important as we discuss integrating new systems into what we already have. We've seen some tough situations come in other spaces of our operations as a result of that. And I wanted to be sure that we communicated effectively, that that's not going to be one of those challenges we have to look at.
Yeah, and Indianapolis is already doing it. So we felt confident that we weren't the initial guinea pig for how that data interaction works. And our IT people are pretty specific. We call them and go, hey, we want to share data with this company. They look at it, it's kind of like, you want to do what? And then they get into all that lingo about, are you doing it this way or are you doing it that way? But keep in mind that this is it's not a direct access to our active live data. They're using it in a sandbox, as they said. Secondarily, from a process standpoint, we still do all of our transactions over in Munis. So budget transfers, requisition entry, purchase order processing, bill payment, payroll, all of that still exists in Munis. We're just collecting certain pieces of data that we need so to visualize what's going on in our budgets, manage them, massage whatever we want. And especially in budget preparation process, you know, we're hoping that that will help us do that more efficiently. And then again, if we can't export that out and upload it into our system. So it's, you know, I think that it'll work very well. Yeah, we're talking about how frequently that information.
I was just thinking about, because we were hearing here that in essence, from the end user standpoint, it's a real time.
And it's, you know, we currently use what we call a cube access, and that's on a separate server. But it's last night's information.
Right.
So the only thing you're missing is today's transaction. And that's through the ERP system, but that's an Excel connection, which, you know, this will be much easier to explain to departmental and building personnel than an Excel cube and pivot tables and all of that. You know, I get
A lot
it.
about
People on my
pivot
staff get it and think we're really good at it. But going beyond that, it's tough for folks to handle.
So are there any additional questions? Okay, awesome. So as I just close out before we go into adjournment, what I appreciate most about not just this presentation, but even the one preceding this, is that the organization is thinking very seriously about modernizing. And I appreciate the fact that there's a segment of our institution that is leading that modernization effort in the district in a way that has us being forward-thinking about how we expand our capacity to meet the emergent needs of children and their families. Most folks think of what we do from only the front line of transportation, only the front line of a classroom, but there are numerous other operators and operations that work to ensure the things that are provided via food service, transportation, and education of our children. And we have to meet the times, we have to meet the needs and issues of an industry to be competitive to that effect. So I thank you for that. I look forward to having this being presented to my colleagues on the board, and thank you again for your time. Is there a motion?
Can
Yes,
I,
sir.
a little point of privilege, since we have all four of our community members here, and I have one more finance committee available to me, and who knows with all of your schedules whether I'll see you again. I just wanted to say thanks. It's been great. This committee has been together for numerous years, these exact members, and we really appreciate your input. I always like to say we have the most fun and the best committee that the board has. But we do appreciate and value your insights and your inputs to what we're doing. And we actually enjoy bringing our stuff to you, to present it to you and say, this is what we're doing, this is what we see, and help us, you know, just do a better job on the financial side. So the four of you, and certainly the three board members who have varied over time, but I get to say something to them later, so this is my last chance to talk to you. But I think the district is better for the work that this committee has done. It was reconstituted or resurrected my first year here. I think we held our first meetings in early 2015, because I came on the scene in August of 14. I can remember some of the board members saying to me, you know, we want to have a finance committee meeting. How do you feel about that? I'm like, well, okay.
Guilty as charged.
And
Myself and Mr. Dominic Peretti, yes.
And I think sometimes maybe some of my other counterparts and colleagues don't have as good of an experience with the finance committee as we do here. We've come together to look at the financial side of the district with the goal of understanding our finances and providing the sustained financial well-being of the district to support the educational program. I think we've done that well, and I appreciate and thank you for your help.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Thank you all. Now with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Yes, absolutely.
Here and the public, right? And I show them to treasurers around the state of Ohio as, you know, this is the exemplar, right? So this is what we all strive to be. So, he's the best. Really has helped treasurers all over the state of Ohio.
Thank you, Ms. Katie. Thank you so much. Any additional thoughts or comments? All right, well,
I know where you are, George. We're not done yet. Can we adjourn this meeting?
he's good at what he does. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, motion is seconded. If there are no nays, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.